Okay, let's just get right into it. We're talking about the indoor azalea. You know, the one, that incredible burst of color you see in stores every single winter. They are absolutely beautiful, but yeah, they've got a reputation for being, well, a little fussy. So today, we're gonna demystify this plant and help you turn it from a temporary visitor into a permanent member of the family.
And this quote from plant expert Marina Remeslo just hits the nail on the head. We tend to see them as disposable decor, right? Like a beautiful bouquet that just happens to come in a pot. We enjoy those gorgeous flowers, and when they fade, we figure, well, that was nice, and toss it out. But that's not the end of the story, not by a long shot.
So what's the big secret then? How do you actually get this plant to stick around, not just for one season, but to come back and bloom again and again? Well, that is exactly what we are going to unpack right now.
All right, first things first, we have to master the basics. I mean, getting these things right is literally the difference between your azalea living or dying. And the most important, number one, absolutely critical element is water.
This right here is the golden rule. You always hear people say, keep it consistently moist. But what on earth does that actually mean in practice? Well, this slide gives you the perfect mental picture. A well-wrung-out sponge. It's damp for sure, but it's not sopping wet. Azaleas are incredibly thirsty plants, and letting them dry out completely, even one time, can be game over.
So this is the pro method for watering. Instead of just pouring water on top, you let the plant soak it up from the bottom. It's the best way to make sure that peaty soil gets totally saturated. But look, the most important part of this whole process is step 3. Let it drain completely. Azaleas absolutely hate having wet feet, and leaving one sitting in a puddle of water is just a one-way ticket to root rot.
Next up is light. And this is a real balancing act. You're looking for bright but indirect light, like what you'd get near an east-facing window. And this shows you exactly what happens when you get the balance wrong. Too much harsh, direct sun, you're gonna see scorched, crispy leaves. But not enough light, you'll get this sad, leggy-looking plant that just won't make the flower buds you want.
And the last of our core essentials, the soil. You can't just use any old potting mix. Azaleas have to have acidic soil. A mix made for rhododendrons? That's perfect. And you see it right there. A pot with drainage holes is completely non-negotiable. It all comes back to that main rule. We want moist, but we never ever want soggy.
Okay, so we've covered how to keep it alive. Now let's talk about how to make it happy. We're moving from just surviving to actually thriving. I just love this quote because it perfectly paints a picture of what an azalea wants. They're cool customers. Just like Marina says, they do not like hot, stuffy rooms. If you can keep this cool, misty forest idea in your head, it'll make all your other decisions so much easier.
And here it is, the magic number. If you want those amazing flowers to last for as long as possible, this is the temperature range you're aiming for. It is so important to keep it away from heat registers or radiators. Even a few degrees too warm will make those beautiful blooms fade way faster.
And right alongside those cool temps, azaleas need humidity. The thing is, the air inside our homes, especially when the heat is on in the winter, is just way too dry for them. This chart shows you that sweet spot you're shooting for, somewhere between 40 and 60%. Hitting that will keep the leaves from getting crispy and stop the flower buds from drying up.
So how do you actually get more humidity? Well, here are 3 super easy and effective ways to do it. The pebble tray is a classic for a reason. The evaporating water creates a little moisture bubble around the plant. Grouping it with your other plants does something similar. And of course, a room humidifier is the most straightforward way to get the job done.
Let's talk about fertilizer, because timing is everything here. It feels a little weird, but you do not want to fertilize an azalea when it's in full bloom. You have to wait until the show's over. The key thing to remember is this. Once those flowers fade, that's when you start feeding it with a fertilizer made for acid-loving plants. That's the fuel it needs to grow and prepare for next year's blooms.
Which brings us to the main event, the number one question everybody asks. How in the world do I get this thing to flower again? This is the ultimate prize for all your hard work. And you know what? It's totally doable.
It all starts with this one critical rule of pruning. You have a very, very specific window to do this. See, azaleas develop the flower buds for next year over the summer. So if you wait too long and prune in, say, late summer or fall, you are literally cutting off every single one of next year's flowers. So remember, prune as soon as those last blooms fade.
Okay, now you really want to pay attention to this slide, because this is the real secret sauce. To get the plant to form new buds, it needs a chilling period in the fall. We're talking about roughly 2 months in a cool place where the temperatures are right in this range. A chilly, unheated porch, a cool garage, a basement, those are often perfect spots.
So, let's put all the pieces together. This is the entire year-long cycle. Step 1, after it's done blooming, you give it a haircut and let it have a little summer vacation outside in a shady spot. Step 2, when fall comes, you bring it inside for that super important 2-month chilling period. And finally, step 3, in the early winter, you move it back to a warmer, brighter spot, and that's the wake-up call that tells it, okay, it's time to make flowers.
Now, of course, things aren't always going to go perfectly. But learning how to read the signs, to understand what your plant is trying to tell you, that's what makes you a truly confident caretaker. Think of this chart as your personal Azalea to English dictionary. Are the leaves turning yellow? First, check your watering. Then, think about if your soil is acidic enough. Seeing brown, crispy edges? That is almost always a cry for more humidity. And if it just plain refuses to bloom, well, now you know the #1 suspect is that it didn't get a proper chilling period.
And what about bugs and pests? I've actually got some great news on that front. The most common pests, like spider mites, love the exact opposite of what your azalea loves. They want it hot and dry. So just by creating that perfect cool and humid home for your plant, you're also making it a terrible place for its worst enemies to live. It's a total win-win.
Okay, this is a really important heads up. As gorgeous as azaleas are, every single part of the plant is toxic if it's eaten. And that goes for dogs, cats, and for people. So please make sure you put your plant somewhere well out of reach of any curious pets or little kids.
So, to bring it all home, let's just quickly recap the 4 most important rules for a happy azalea. If you can just get these 4 things down, you are golden. 1. Keep that soil moist like a wrung-out sponge. 2. Prune it right after it finishes blooming, and not a moment later. 3. Give it that essential cold nap in the fall. And 4. Feed it with fertilizer made for acid lovers.
And there you have it. By just understanding what this plant truly needs, you've taken something that most people think of as temporary and turned it into a fantastic, long-term companion that's going to bring color into your home year after year. So the only question left is, now that you know you can do this, what will you help thrive next?